Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Solidarity Side Chats. I'm Meg Slay, and I'm here with Trev Lewis, the wonderful Trev Lewis. And how are you doing today, Trev?
Wow, I got upgraded to wonderful.
Yes, and I asked you how you were doing.
And you remembered to ask me. Well, I'll tell you how I just want, you know how I'm doing because we talked before the show, but for the audience out there, I just need to say this so you understand how goddamn dedicated we are to you people. We are recording this in the middle of Hurricane Hillary.
Hurricane. How committed are we?
We're so committed. We went months without talking to anybody, and people said, where are they? Are they ever coming back? And now, look at us. We're back with a vengeance. We're here every week. We say we'll be here every week. Hurricane, hell or high water.
Yes.
And this is the high water of that phrase. We will be here talking about something. So that's how I'm doing, Meg. I'm ready. I don't know what's going to happen during the course of this half hour. We discuss things. We might make it to the end. That's the audience.
We might. Who knows?
The audience, you'll want to stay tuned in to see if we actually finish this broadcast. we might be underwater.
Yeah.
What's that Jonas Brothers song, Year 3000?
Oh,
Anybody remember?
probably. Oh my God. Yeah, that's a throwback. That was a dope song. That was
a great. The Jonas Brothers had no reason to release a banger that good, and they did that. They did that for us. They did that for us.
Yeah, they did. Thanks, Jonas Brothers.
The year 3000, not much has changed, but they live underwater. We'll see. We might hit that before the year 3000.
Right.
Anyway. So, with that said, we've got a couple of major topics to discuss this week. The first of which is this fake working class anthem that people can't get enough of. Oliver Anthony is his name. Is that right? Is it Ollie Anthony? Something like that. We'll get into it. And then, it's almost that time, folks. It is almost the time for yet another United States presidential election. And it's getting off to a characteristically bumpy start. We're going to talk about the debate that's coming this week. This Wednesday is the first GOP debate. Who is going to be there? More importantly, who's not going to be there? And the details therein. So with that being said, I want to make sure, what is this dumbass's name before I get it wrong?
It's Oliver. Oliver
It
Anthony.
is Oliver.
You had it. Yeah, you had it right.
I'm just doubting myself.
No.
Okay.
You're good.
Mr. Anthony. Oliver Anthony. Struggle to remember his first name, but
if that's
Oliver
actually
Anthony.
his real name.
If that's even his real name. Nothing about this has been real so far. The alleged internet sensation over the past week, you could not scroll through Twitter without seeing his... First of all, I want to say this. A couple of people have said and mocked his beard and said that he dyes his beard red because it doesn't match his hair. For those of you watching and listening to this program, you will know that is not necessarily the case, that people with blonde hair and red beards and no eyebrows exist. We are here. We are real. And I hate that this is the representation I'm getting, first of all.
I know. I was thinking about that. I was like, out of all the redheads in the world, why could Trev not be the one to be an overnight sensation?
Well, apparently I gotta link up with some right-wing...
Make a country song. Do you have a good singing voice?
A fake country song. Well, we'll save that for later. Maybe someday I'll show you all.
I think it could be a Johnny Cash, you know?
I could probably hit the register for that. You're right. I could probably pull that off. We'll practice. We'll debut it on this channel.
Sounds good.
But yeah, in order to become an overnight sensation, it turns out you need a little bit more than a good voice and a guitar. You might need deep connections to right-wing dark money and billionaires and those sorts of things. Let's get into it. So it all began with this tweet from none other than Matt Walsh, right-wing freak, if you don't know, who's affiliated with Ben Shapiro, most likely a pedophile, though not confirmed yet. It would not surprise me if that comes out someday. Anyway.
Not confirmed yet. I love that.
Not confirmed yet. Let's be real. Dude's a creep. He's a weirdo. He's obsessed with genitalia. This is not a normal guy.
Yeah.
Out of all the unhinged right-wing weirdos, Matt Walsh makes me the least comfortable. Yeah, he's such a freak. Anyway, so I hate him. He's a loser, fascist, dweeb. And speaking of fake beards being dyed, by the way, you go look up a picture of that guy. Like, his beard is clearly dyed fake. So, Oliver Anthony I hate for different reasons, but I got to give respect to a guy with a red beard that is all natural, whereas Matt Walsh is desperately using, like, the Walmart dark black pitch black
Really?
boxed out. Yeah, it's just, he's so cringe. And then if you look up old pictures of Matt Walsh, you see what an ugly little dork he actually is. That's who he really is. It's similar for all these guys. Elon Musk, pre hair plugs. No shame to anybody who gets those things, but these guys, they sort of build themselves up to be the peak
Alpha
of masculinity.
male.
Yeah, exactly. And then you look them up, and it's just like the people who were shoved into lockers and deserved it in school. So anyway, Matt Walsh, he tweeted out a clip of the song and said, "The main reason this song resonates with so many people isn't political. It's because the song is raw and authentic. We are suffocated by artificiality. Everything around us is fake. A guy in the woods pouring his heart out over his guitar is real." And so, it was a snippet of the song and it went viral, and it's this working class anthem. The only thing about it, first of all, let's just talk about the song itself. The clip is very intentional. What is not in that clip are the other lyrics. So in the clip, it cuts right to... for people like me and people like you, wish I could just wake up and it not be true. But it is, oh it is, living in the new world with an old soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just want to have control. So, it's a pseudo working class, the rich people control everything. So you could say, okay, whatever. But if you go look up the full song and listen to it, and look, it's very intentional. They left out lyrics such as, "I wish politicians would look out for minors and not just minors on an island somewhere. Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and the obese milking welfare. Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bag of fudge rounds." These are the actual lyrics of the dumbest song I have heard in a long time. This shit is so stupid.
This is no 9 to 5.
It is no 9 to 5. It is no 9 to 5.
Dolly is still queen of the working class anthems.
So, first of all, the way it's written, it's almost like he's condoning the politicians looking out for the kids on Epstein's islands. Like the way that's worded, I wish politicians would look out for minors and not just minors on an island somewhere. He didn't say instead of. He didn't say instead of. He said not just Epstein's island, but I wish they would also focus on working class minors. Like I feel like he meant to say instead of, but instead he made it inclusive. Anyway, so there's that. And then there's the hatred of people eating fudge rounds for some reason. I mean, this is not your dad's, Bob Dylan song. This is not Johnny Cash. This is nowhere near. This isn't even Garth Brooks.
In the street ain't got nothing to eat. Well, damn, that sounds like a problem. But tell me why it's the fault of the people on welfare.
Right. Yeah. Last I checked. Anyway, also it's 2023. Are we still doing Reagan welfare queen rhetoric? Like, have we not moved past this?
Seems like it. Yeah.
Have we not? Can you guys find? I mean, I've been hearing this stupid stuff my whole life. Can you not find anything else? Any other point of view? Like, it's all they have, gender, and then
that's all they have. Because you know
all
what?
they have.
Like, if they don't blame the poor, then who else is there to blame?
It might be the Richmond north of Richmond, which, by the way, isn't that the title of this stupid song? What do the Richmond north of Richmond have to do with the people on welfare, you idiot?
Yeah.
What is? I thought it was the rich men north of Richmond, but you're talking about welfare people eating fudge rounds. Also, when was the last time? I've not heard anybody talk about fudge rounds. This is such I don't know. I just feel like those snacks are not what they used to be. I grew up on them.
What
no
is
shame.
that? Is that?
It's a Little Debbie brand. I think it's Little Debbie brand. Yeah.
Yeah, I just.
They were. It's one of those really super artificial things that I was fed
like
as a
Twinkie.
child. Yeah, same category. When you don't really love your children and you're too distracted, as my parents often were, you just let them stuff that in their mouths and then they run around and pass out. So anyway, now okay. To be fair, the literacy levels of right-wing audience, we've talked about how Ben Shapiro doesn't understand Star Wars or Oppenheimer, and he loves these franchises.
He just loves to play with Barbies.
Oh, right. And he likes these franchises that are so clearly telling people that right-wing fascists are evil, and the message is lost. So in defense of this song, it is not unthinkable that it would go viral on its own because they are that stupid. Right-wingers who listen to stuff like that are dumb enough, which is why it was convincing to them and why it sort of did catch on. So it's not the least believable thing in the world that a song like this would catch on. And so I went back and forth. I was like, this feels really calculated, and this whole overnight sensation nonsense and the way it's being pushed by Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh and all the Daily Wire freaks. I was like, okay, they are stupid enough that the right-wing audience could boost a song like this, but also there's something that feels a little weird here. And sure enough, none other than a gentleman on Twitter by the name of the MAGA Hulk. This is what's so interesting about this story to me. The MAGA Hulk, who is clearly not a leftist of any persuasion, nor liberal. This is an actual MAGA account that took the time purely because of the fact that a lot of the Ben Shapiro Daily Wire folks are in the camp of Ron DeSantis. That's really what this is about. So this is one of the most glorious things we could ever experience, right-wing infighting. We all know left-wing. We all know about leftist infighting. It's the bane of our existence. We live it every day. And yet, every once in a while, the rare gem of right-wing infighting, previously they were all so united. It was Trump or it was Bush or whatever. And more recently, it's been breaking off into factions. And so, this at the MAGA Hulk account finally broke it down this week and said, I didn't want to comment on all this because Oliver Anthony seems like a genuinely great guy. You see what I mean? This is not a left-wing account, folks. So but all the more credible. But Matt Walsh's sanctimonious word vomit forced my hand. There is nothing authentic about this song's rise to popularity. Jason Howerton seems to be the key player involved in the astroturfing campaign. He's the CEO of Reach Digital, which helps media companies and political influencers grow their social media footprint exponentially. Jason was one of the first accounts heavily promoting this song as he provided a background on Oliver Anthony and his faith. Jason indicates that Oliver Anthony had been contacted to record the song. Jason also admits he even covered the cost to produce the record. So who wrote the song? And how did so many big right-wing accounts have the video ready to post simultaneously? You can like the song and like its message without gaslighting us into believing this was an authentic viral hit by a simple countryman with a mic and a guitar. Launch a product, get over 1.3 million hits. That's the title of the article Mr. Howerton shared on LinkedIn. This was another Conservative Inc. AstroTurf campaign. Embrace it. So there you go. And then sure enough, if you look into it, Jason Howerton's LinkedIn, Reach Digital, it's all there. It all adds up. There's exactly receipts. What happened. There's receipts. And then sure enough, this guy got enough traction that none other than Dan Bongino got super triggered, got super upset that the jig is up, and tweeted, Jason works with me. Jason is a great guy who texted me last week, blown away by the emotion in Oliver's song. Jason wanted to help. He flew from California to North Carolina to help Oliver get the message out. Yes, that's what he does. He uses digital platforms to spread the word, mine included. This effing moron below doesn't have a clue about what happened. Imbeciles like this effer below are what decimate our movement. They open their big mouths about shit they have no idea about while sitting on their fat asses criticizing the doers. F this guy. That is the most triggered I have ever seen Dan Bongino.
On his fat ass? Is that what he said? So is this is the Magma Hulk also?
The MAGA Hulk? I don't know. I don't know. The MAGA Hulk looks pretty buff to me.
Yeah, right? This is all ridiculous. It's just so... the MAGA Hulk, what they did was... they didn't have a problem with the lyrics. What they had a problem with was the artificiality behind
Yeah.
the viral sensation
Yeah.
because they're not being honest. And
No, it's
that's
insulting.
yeah, oh, 1,000%. Because it's like, why would, if you want to put out this song and this music, just be honest about it. Don't make it like this, oh, yeah, we just like randomly found this on our, like, YouTube recommendations. That's just weird. But like the whole thing is that what I thought was so interesting too is that there was a lot of these articles too that were published about this guy being like, how did he become like an overnight sensation and like yada yada yada. Not one of them actually covered what you're talking about. Not one of them. And that's like something that I'm like, this is so messed up about mainstream media, is that they don't really go that extra step to find out or like just follow up on stories.
Corporate journalism is so lazy, because they just don't care. They're not. If you're expecting corporate liberal media to save you from the right-wing fascists, it is simply time to wake up. So yes, I and a lot of people on Twitter did the real work, which is why, it sucks so much that Elon's doing his best to destroy the platform, because there was an element of citizen journalism on it. And if we're ever expected to get the real story and real coverage of stuff like this, we got to rely on each other. We got to rely on citizen journalism. We got to rely on independent media like Solidarity Media here, because corporate media is not going to dive into this because they're too lazy. They don't care. And that's really the biggest problem with liberal media trying to challenge conservative media, is they engage with them in good faith, but nothing the conservatives do is in good faith. It's all astroturf. It's all artificial. It's all fake. Everything they do is fake and phony, from their stupid cowboy aesthetic to everything else about them. Like, these people drive their souped up lifted trucks with their stupid truck nuts on the back of it, driving around in a car that costs, $40-some thousand, living in the suburbs, and they think that they're the working man, the cowboy in the Wild West.
Well, that's what they've been told.
It's every layer of the modern conservative identity is such a little pathetic joke, and this song is the latest example of just how fake it all is and how stupid they all are. So there's that. Anyway, lest anyone be misled into thinking that was an authentic viral hit and that song spoke to millions of conservatives, and if you turn on some stupid liberal show that's like, we really have to listen to what the middle America is telling us. I mean, these independent voters, because Meg, didn't you say that Oliver Anthony himself presents himself as a centrist?
He claims to be like politically neutral, and that's the thing that got me, because I was like, okay, this is not politically neutral. What he claims to be is, he's not left, he's not right. Well, clearly your beliefs aren't like neutral. They're not like moderate, because it's the conservatives that are like loving on this song. So like, and
attacking welfare recipients.
Yeah.
For,
well, yeah. Yeah, 1,000%. And I think that like what you just said too, earlier, just like this has been going on since like the 70s, 80s, 90s or whatever, just like about that welfare queen myth.
Oh yeah.
And
that centrist myth.
Well, yeah. And I mean, like, we know that that's not true. And even if somebody was a welfare queen, the fact of the matter is that like, okay, well, the real queens are the rich. They use like these like tax loopholes and everything else to go and avoid paying taxes. So people can't like get the welfare that they need, or like we can't get the, public education funding that we need and everything else. So like, don't blame the poor people. They're not the ones with the political power. You know?
Someone really broke it down. Like, the language is barely coded. Richmond, north of Richmond. This is a sort of neo-Confederate song.
Oh, yeah.
Complaining about the North from the perspective of the South, and the welfare queens historically it's always been a racist dog whistle. So this is really a very barely coded, Daily Wire funded neo-Confederate, borderline Nazi anthem about the North has betrayed the South, and the real problem is all these people of color on welfare. That's the message of the song. It's as racist and dumb as it gets, and not an ounce of it was authentic or organic. It did not speak to a bunch of people. It is a billionaire-funded right-wing astroturf effort, just like everything about the conservative movement today is. It has nothing to do with the working class. It has nothing to do with solidarity. And anybody, be it on the left or otherwise, that is still pretending that we need to reach out to these freaks or that there's this giant sentiment within the country, it is a very small, loud percentage of this country that buys into any of this radical stuff. And we just need to squash it. We need to squash it. That's there's no negotiating, there's no seat at the table, we need to debate in the marketplace of ideas, not with these freaks. It needs to be squashed. That's the reality.
Well, and see, there's another lyric that I want to point out. I mean, like, okay, young men are putting themselves 6 feet in the ground because all this damn country does is keep on kicking them down. Okay, so like, you know, I know at least within the military, okay, there is like the statistic that it's like, I think it's like 20 vets a day like commit suicide or something like that. And the whole thing is like a lot of them are just like, you know, committing suicide because they don't have any kind of social safety net once they leave the military. There's no transitional period for them. You know, it's like once they leave, they're out on their own. And that's definitely a culture shock for those people, for those veterans. And the thing is that like, you know, if our country cares about, you know, the young men, they need to go and do something like fix that, give them that transitional period and everything. But then like the whole thing is that like, if they're just talking about young men in general, like that's something that I need to look into. I know that definitely like everyone feels not heard in this time period. But maybe we just need to listen to each other a little bit more. I don't know. What do you think?
Except for these weirdos.
No, well, yeah, no, there's a difference. Okay. I want to say something because I'm like, I understand where you're coming from 100%. But I also think that a lot of people are products of their environment. And if our upbringings had been different, like we might not be where we are, right? Like if you had ended up, you know, I guess staying in the Midwest, you know, I had just like continued going to Christian school and just been in a Christian bubble my whole life, we would have probably never like been exposed to these ideas and challenged our beliefs, you know? Well, and so like, I think with some of these people, it's just that they're so deeply embedded in right-wing culture and they don't self-reflect or they don't have their, you know, thoughts challenged, you know, and so there does need to be some type of engagement slightly, at least in good faith with the people that are willing to actually have those conversations. Because there's definitely a huge difference between somebody that's, you know, on the right and will have that conversation and somebody that's, you know, blowing like a racist dog whistle, like you're saying about this song.
There's a difference, and you're not wrong that on some level we have to educate people.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of being a leftist, is educating, especially in this country, is educating people, because we are programmed from a young age to oppose any kind of progress and any kind of left-wing.
And don't question authority.
Yeah. However, that being said,
yeah,
we do have to draw lines. And I really think we have a very finite amount of time to turn any of this around before it gets too late.
Yeah.
And so the vast majority of people in this country either are liberals who don't quite get it yet, or they don't vote at all. Mm-hmm. And that's where our focus needs to be. There are people who don't vote. That's the majority of the country, that are true neutral and have not been swayed by the liberals and have not been swayed by the fascist freaks, the modern day circus that is the GQP. Mm-hmm. And those are the people we need to spend our time. I really think, you know, I used to give the Republicans the benefit of the doubt, and I have some in my own family. And after hours and hours of wasted effort and discussion, I have seen, and with my own eyes, it is intentional. You know, it is the time to coddle these people and say, well, if only they knew better, if only they reflected. They know better. That's the thing. These people know better. The Trump voters, the MAGA people, they know exactly what they're doing. It is all barely disguised. They're racists. They want a society based on white supremacy. They want theocracy. They want a fascist authoritarian government where right-wing evangelicalism rules the land and minorities of all kinds are put in camps. That's what they want. And the time to reason with these freaks is over, in my opinion. So, yes, we got to educate. Yes, we need to reach people who are willing to be reached, as Meg distinguishes, the people who are willing to have conversations.
There's
the people who are willing to have the conversations, we absolutely need. It's more important than ever to try to have those conversations, because if you don't have those conversations with the actual people in the middle, they will.
Yeah.
So if you're a liberal and you think that you're so enlightened when it comes to gender theory and pronouns, you're going to have to, at least on some level, be willing to talk to people who don't get that stuff.
Yeah.
And admit that there was a time, probably like 2 years ago, when you didn't either, because it's all relatively new.
1,000%. 1,000%. That's
right.
the thing.
So,
that kind of is what irks me.
There is elitism.
Like our camp, at least.
Yes, there is elitism.
Yeah, don't be so self-righteous. Like, we're all students. Like, and sometimes we do need to step into the role of teacher in a sense, but just like we're all like lifelong students. So don't get, overly confident. Like, is our self-worth like that low that's like the thing that gives us validation? Like,
what's interesting is a lot of these same left-wing liberals or whatever that really just live to be scolds and constantly talk down to everybody else and act like they're this superior thing. Their conduct is different subject matter, but identical in practice to the evangelicals. Like, it's all about judgment.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about condemnation. It's all about, I'm morally pure and the rest of you are sinners and beneath me and you need to seek redemption. And I'll say it's the right wing evangelicals say it's God. Left wing people say that it's whatever they call it. But it's this supposedly higher standard, and yet it only reflects their ego, and it's them talking down to everybody else, and they're always right, but everybody else is always wrong. So if you engage in that kind of stuff, whether you think righteous or not, reflect on that and go, am I doing the exact same thing as the evangelicals? Am I weaponizing something for a completely different end than what it was supposed to be about?
Yeah, just to satisfy your ego, because ego is what gets us in the end.
Yeah. So there is some of that, and there are people who identify as left or liberal or whatever that do fall into the trap of becoming those types of people. So I do want to be clear. It's not like we have perfection on our side, but we draw a hard line at the fascists at this point, and the freaks, and they know what they're doing, and I will stick to that. We've got to get past the point where we're trying to debate or coddle these right-wing psychopaths. The people in the middle, the true middle, the true neutral, the non-voters, the non-participants, that is where we recruit. That's what Bernie's campaign tried to do, and they made a lot of effort getting young people into the fold who previously were not part of this world, and we have to pick up the baton of where the Bernie effort left, because I feel like in the absence of him himself running for president, we've kind of forgotten the mission there a little bit, and the whole slogan, not me, us, we have to get back on that, and that's how we crush losers like this and their fake astroturfed, shitty, pseudo-country songs. That being said, that went way longer than we expected, but it was good discussion. It was necessary. Before we leave you this week, we do want to briefly touch on this Wednesday kicks off the first Republican primary debate in Milwaukee at, I think it's 9 p.m. Eastern time, something like that. You can look it up, folks, but it's in Milwaukee this Wednesday, the 23rd. A lot of stuff in motion.
Who's going to be there?
Well, here, I'm not even sure if they released the final names yet, but we know who's not going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
And that is Mr. Donald Trump himself, who has said, people know who I am, which is the funniest, which is it's not totally wrong. And then I just read yesterday, I guess he's in talks with Tucker Carlson to grant him an exclusive interview, as opposed to, because Tucker recently was canceled from Fox News and is struggling. Yeah. He has a non-compete. He's not allowed to be on any network, and so he's struggling. He has a show on Twitter, which is so funny because Twitter's no longer Twitter. And yet, so if you go to Tucker's profile, it still says Tucker on Twitter. Elon has destroyed the platform and destroyed the Twitter brand. Elon is a comrade in disguise, destroying the last remaining platform Tucker Carlson actually has. And anyway, so he has this little, he's trying to have this little internet show, and it's not going anywhere. So this Trump interview is a big thing for him. However, I do think if that moves forward and Trump grants an exclusive interview to Tucker and they form this sort of alliance from here on out, I've warned people of this too. I go, I'm all for deplatforming people. And by the way, Tucker Carlson, his immediate, descent into irrelevance is proof that deplatforming works, and that debating these losers in the marketplace of ideas does not work. It just elevates them. And so, deplatforming him has worked beautifully thus far. The only note I have is I do feel a little bit like when he was on Fox News, he was contained to that studio, and there's nothing stopping him from becoming a candidate himself. And he claims he'd never do it. He claims he has no interest in it. But that was when he had a show, and I really think that's when he thought he could have a career in media, even without Fox News. But I warn people now, and I hope I'm wrong. This will be one of those things where I would be thrilled to look back and go, God, I was completely off base here. If Tucker Carlson becomes increasingly desperate and realizes that he has no career in media, no career in the cable news or internet media spotlight anymore, what is left for him but to start a political movement of his own? And imagine Trump comes out and announces like Tucker Carlson as his VP or anything like that. It is not unthinkable, and it would really be a force to be reckoned with. Tucker, when he was at his peak before they took him off the air, was the actual mouthpiece of this sort of new neo right-wing, I don't even know what to, fascists, like the modern face of fascism, and where it's going to go once Trump is actually finally out of the picture one way or the other. The MAGA movement will morph as it has, it started as the Tea Party, now it's the MAGA, which was also, it's all astroturf, just like that stupid country song by Oliver Anthony. It's all an astroturfed, billionaire-funded,
but can you
pseudo.
just imagine if he was actually the VP? Like, that's basically two reality stars or just like media personalities.
That's what I'm saying.
That would be ridiculous.
It would be ridiculous,
and that
but that's exactly what we said about Trump.
I mean, what just baffles me is when right-winged people go and say oh yeah, the coastal elites in Hollywood and yada. It's what, we're not the party that ended up voting into people that, were either, actors or they were on reality television. That's not the Democratic Party. We haven't done that, so.
The idea that the Republicans are not elite, Trump is literally a billionaire. He literally lived in New York City in a golden penthouse. He's
actually one of the people that are the rich men north of Richmond.
Hillary Clinton was at his wedding.
Yeah.
That famous picture. These are the elites.
It's George Carlin. It's it's one big club and you're not in it.
Exactly. And so there's that. Tucker Carlson, also a pseudo-populist who is, in fact, the heir to the Swanson frozen food empire. This is Tucker Swanson we're talking about. There's no more prep school, Ivy League, hedge fund, coddled silver spoon douchebag than bow tie Tucker Carlson.
What's his background with Swanson? Because I remember you talking about it.
I think it's his mom's
on my
side.
Old show.
Yeah, I think it's his mom's side, and then his dad actually has ties to the CIA. And Tucker at one point tried to become part of the CIA, but he was apparently too incompetent, and so didn't get the job. And so this is
just run for VP. Yeah.
Well, or just go on Fox News where all the other washed up losers who have no real charisma or acumen for professional politics go. And so his has been a stumble and fall from hosting horrible shows on CNN to hosting horrible shows on Fox News. And but again, the way the system currently is, it would not surprise me if this clown that nobody takes seriously other than the right becomes an actual force to be reckoned with, because we said the same thing about Trump. I mean, Trump was a clown. He was a reality TV show star. Now he's the face of the modern American fascist movement. And Tucker fits all that criteria. He's a bit more well-spoken than Trump. And I really predict he's going to become a bigger. I don't think, it's like when you think you've defeated the boss in a video game or whatever, and then they come back like bigger and stronger and mutated, and like he's gonna have like a third arm, and he fell in a vat of ooze, and now it's like Mega Tucker.
It's it's just like not a pretty
no
that would be not cool. I don't know. I mean, I can totally see where you're coming from, because like you're saying, he does have experience in the media. So he does know how to present himself and, do public speaking, which I think a lot of people are freaked out by. So yeah, he would definitely have a better presentation than Trump. So yeah, that definitely could be likely. The thing that I because I'm not familiar with his failed Twitter show and everything like that. Like, now you're saying that he has a no compete clause, and that's why he's on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it nowadays. But if his followers didn't follow him over to Twitter, then does he still have that same kind of power, right? If he's struggling to like have his followers still follow him, then like, does that kind of actually show that he wouldn't be the best person to go and fill that?
Well, the whole reason Trump ran for president is because he was allegedly trying to renegotiate his contract with NBC because of he wanted more money and stuff for The Apprentice, and other celebrities were being paid more, and so Trump was kind of on the downturn. And like many rich people, if they needed to sell a book or whatever.
You're telling me that if like NBC or whoever had just given Trump more money.
Yeah, I really strongly believe that if the Celebrity Apprentice had extended itself and they gave him what he wanted.
This is like the Hitler not getting accepted into art school kind of scenario, feels like.
That's exactly it, though. That's exactly it. So the idea that Tucker's injured or wounded, a fascist is never more dangerous than when they're wounded and desperate. Yeah. That's where fascism really thrives, is in a moment of violent desperation. And so that's what I'm telling people. Tucker is down at the moment, but that is what will embolden him and enrage him enough to try to blow it all up. And that's what scares me about that situation.
Yeah, well, I think, going back to 2016, obviously there was some left-wing outlets were kind of like uplifting Trump's campaign and making the focus on him because they didn't think he would win against Clinton, and so I kind of hope that like the media's learned from that experience and won't give Tucker Carlson any kind of airtime if it gets to that point, because that's the best thing they could do, is just not give him any of that airtime, because as soon as they do, then the right-wing people are going to be like, that's our guy. If the liberals hate him, then we love him.
But we've learned nothing. They'll do it all over again.
Yeah. Well, we've learned stuff. You and me. And like the people watching, we've learned stuff. But it's the people that run on corporate money, they don't care.
Saturday Night Live coming to an episode, soon. Tucker Carlson hosts Saturday Night Live. I could see them do it. Like, they've learned nothing.
Oh, God.
Those idiots learn nothing.
Yeah.
Jimmy Fallon will be like, patting him on the head. Like, they'll do the whole thing again. Anyway, but until it actually happens, it's just a prediction from the darkest corner of my mind. Let us know, do you think Tucker Carlson could actually be a force to be reckoned with, like I'm predicting? Would he ever actually jump in? He claims so far that he's not a actual politician. Am I totally off base? Is it never going to happen? Trev, it's so crazy. He doesn't want to do all that. He's just a puppet. He's not the big threat. Let us know either way. I'm curious because I really want to know what people think about that. And then this Wednesday, after we've all seen clips of the latest circus that is the Republican debate. I mean, it's just a bunch of non-players. Nikki Haley, if she wasn't a woman, a couple of Republicans might vote for her, but let's be real. And then you have that Indian dude who's like their version of Yang. And then they're all just about China. And I'm sorry, but it's just the American people want more than anti-China rhetoric. Like, I think more and more people realize.
Give us some social services. Give us some health.
Yeah, it's like China
education and like housing.
On some level, Republican or Democrat, people have got to understand in this country, China isn't the reason you can't afford to go to college. China is not the reason that you have horrible roads and bridges you can't drive on. Your infrastructure's crumbling. They're not the reason your minimum wage. I mean, on some level, yes, they shipped all your jobs overseas, but like, who made that decision? It's the people here in your government in Washington that are your class enemies. And so, even though Republicans are racist and xenophobic and they'll buy into all that bullshit on some level, I don't think it's the winning message. You've got to talk about domestic stuff. If you stake your entire identity on foreign policy, like these other GOP losers are trying to do, Americans really just want to hear domestic stuff. They really do. I just, maybe I'm wrong in that. Maybe the Cold War stuff is a real winner. I really think the reason Trump has been so successful is because that was one small part of the overall branding. Anyway, we'll see. We will tune into the clips this Wednesday, so maybe you don't have to, and we'll give you our thoughts on all of that.
We'll save you like a couple hours.
But for now, we've made it to the end of this broadcast. I'm still dry. I'm not underwater yet. Meg, how are you on your end?
Right, I know. Yeah, we have. Yeah, we survived. We survived the hurricane. We survived Hillary.
We did it so far. Anyway, do you have any final thoughts, Meg, before we close out?
No. I mean, it's just another great week in America.
That's right.
So, yeah.
What's the Patreon?
The Patreon is obviously patreon.com/solidaritymedia. If you want to do $5 a month or whatever, just to support the channel, so that me and Trev can do this, hopefully one day in the near future full time. That would be amazing. Right. And then we could get really nice equipment for ourselves and just like up the quality and everything else. But yeah, so if you want to go and help with that dream of ours, go to our Patreon and support us. It's a community funded, show and everything. So we really appreciate all of you guys.
It's people-funded media, not corporate-funded media. Then that's the only kind of media that's ever going to give you real takes about stuff like this. It's just the only way.
Yes, exactly. Yes, but then that's going to be it. So I guess we will see you next week. And last words, Trev?
No, that's it.
That's
it?
Where I'll cut it. Perfect. Okay, I'm being awkward then with this sign off. Okay, adios, guys.